Alright, welcome back to the stream. This is going to be actually video 4, or stream 4. And I apologize. I've got this main intro. I had the end screen on at the beginning of this, and I apologize for that. I just realized that. Bear with me while I correct the title on this. Should just take a second here. I'm going to change that instead of calling it video, since we're now doing streams. It's going to be stream 4. And the title was The Boring Side of Game Development. Documentation, of course. Who likes to document things, really? Let's get real. It's like going back to the days of writing essays. I'm sure there's a few folks out there that love writing, doing all that, but I'm not one of those people. But aside from that fact, it is something that is important in game development. You definitely are not going to be able to develop a game off the top of your head from start to finish. There's going to need to be some planning, some things that need to be documented, obviously, just to give you a sense of direction on what your goals are, your milestones, things like that. Now, initially when I do anything, well, again, when I say I do anything, drawing from my previous experience doing software development, a little bit that I did, I found it good to initially come up with a very generalized game plan of what I'm trying to accomplish, and sort of in goals, or if it was features, a list of features, and I would break down each feature into the specifics that it would take to create that feature, and anything that it might depend on or relate back to in another part of my app. So what we're going to do here, now that I've got that title corrected, let me just make sure that looks right before I move on. Yep, should read stream 4, The Boring Side of Game Development Documentation. Did I spell everything correctly? Yeah, I'm not the best typist, so I might have typos and errors, so bear with me on that. And what we want to do is switch this back to a live view first. And I'm going to open up Notepad here real quick so we can jot down some things. Now, we mentioned in the last stream that we're going to be doing our initial game that we're going to create is going to be a remake of Space Invaders in Unity. So we'll just document. I'm going to write this down. Oops. Game to recreate. I'll just say classic. I'll call it classic, and I got too many S's in there. Space Invaders. And I'm going to put the website I mentioned last time. So we have that as reference for anyone that maybe is starting just now watching. But it was at free 80s with an S, 80S, arcade, free80sarcade.com, I believe, is what the website was. Let's make sure that in fact is what it was. Yeah, www.free80sarcade.com. And so we were at Space Invaders, and that was the game we looked at last time. So let's bring up our document again. So that's the goal here. Why is my home key not working? I don't know why, but my home key's not working, and none of my keys actually work in this thing, but this is our goal. And this is traditionally called a game document, but it's the written portion, which could could include not only just technical information or generalized information, it could include screenshots, maybe some hand-drawn prototypes of some enemies, characters, anything in the game, anything you really want to put into it. The game document is something that generally the programmers or group of programmers would create. And anyways, it's a document also used for apps to outline what it is your goal is and the things you want to accomplish in that app. So bear with me. Give me just 1 second. I've got something to take care of. Sorry about that. I'm back. I hate to leave in the middle of a stream like that. Anyways, had to take care of something. Okay, so our main goal here, and this is just again for our reference, game to recreate classic Space Invaders. Now, when we think about that game, we watched it on the last stream. There's a couple of things that we need to note. The player control. We'll just document this. Oh, geez. Again, home key's not working. I'm just going to number these. Player control moves left and right only, and spacebar to fire. So just make a note. So there's really very limited controls in this game. So left and right movement, which with the arrow keys, and spacebar to fire. So that's really the movement. Now, how we're going to map the movement, we don't necessarily have to use the arrow keys. We could, since most games nowadays are using the AWSD keys, we can use the A and D keys to do the left and right, and just keep it, that way. And then instead of the space bar, since we're on a PC that's going to have a mouse and usually fire with the left mouse button, we'll look at using the left mouse button as our fire. So what I'm documenting is features of that game that we looked at on free80sarcade.com. So if you don't know what I'm talking about with these features, go ahead and play the game. Go to free80sarcade.com, play it for a few minutes, a couple rounds, and really pay attention to movement, the type of enemies when they fire, the bonus ship, just different things about the game, and get a mental picture of what it's doing and what the limitations are. Okay, the second thing, there were defense shields at bottom of screen above player control. I'm calling it player control, but it's really just above the player. The player avatar, let's call it that, whatever it's going to be. Actually there were, let's put 4 defense shields at bottom of screen. Now those defense shields were, as the enemy shot missiles, they broke them down, and pieces of them started to go away until there was really no shield if you played the game long enough. So we'll figure out a way to implement our own damage or destruction in Unity. Okay, the third thing about that game is that enemies, first of all, there were three different types of enemies. Valued at, it was 10, 20, and I think 30 points or something like that. Well, we don't necessarily need to know the exact values there, but three different types of enemies valued at different amounts, different point levels. Basically, the highest point value for the enemy was the highest one was on top, on the top row, and it looked like there was 5 rows actually. The top row had the highest level. Then there's 2 rows of the second enemy and 2 more rows of the other third enemy. So the ones on the bottom were the lowest point value, the bottom 2 rows. The next 2 up were worth a little bit more, and the ones on the very top row were valued the highest, and they were almost a little bit smaller than the enemies on the bottom. It made it easier to shoot them, or harder to shoot them up top. Alright, so the fourth thing about Space Invaders that we need to make note. So we're coming up with our design here. We're keeping all this into consideration. Enemies randomly shot missiles at player, sometimes damaging shields. And kill. Let's just make note. You're and instant death. Instant. Let's call it PK, player kill. If hit. All right. So the fifth thing. And again, this is just like I said, a list that's going to help us along the way. We have this written down, things that it needs to do, its capabilities, what we expect the game to be like as we build it. And so there was a score, LED, like we call it an LED style, or a score readout. Score readout, I'll just call it that. I think it was in the top left. And lives remaining, top right. Start with 3. I'll just put it like that. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else we really need to know about that game. I never really played it through. Well, I did off stream. I was playing that game a little bit just to jog my memory of how it worked. But when I played it on stream last time, we kind of went through one level and that was it. I don't think I even cleared the whole screen and died after 3 lives were used up. So that's really basically it. I mean, you've got 5 rows of enemies start about halfway up the screen, and they start marching, side to side, left to right, right to left. Each time they hit the side, the group moves down slightly down the screen, and keeps working down. Eventually they will work down. If you don't kill them all, they'll work down to where your shields are at, eat away at your shields, and then obviously when they run into you, they'll kill you as well, just the same as a missile will. So I think we get the idea of that game. I'm just jotting down a few things that we just need to be aware of as far as player controls, defense shields, 3 different types of enemies randomly shooting missiles at players, damaging shields, and an instant player kill if hit, score readout, and let's just add enemies. We'll call it March. March down screen left to. Actually, they march. Let's call it edge to edge. Moving down screen each time an edge is reached. I told you I couldn't spell. Okay. And so that's pretty much it. I mean, now as far as if we want to think about Unity the way it is, it's scene based, and so we could kind of decide how many scenes we're actually going to have right now, or how many we want to have. We definitely, if we want to do what the game did online, let's just go back and look at it. When you launch it, this is the first thing you see. So you see a very simple intro screen, which shows you the point values of the enemy ships, and you got a play option here, play Space Invaders. So there's no instructions. It just assumes you're going to figure this out, and you're going to start shooting. Your instincts are going to kick in. You're going to know what to do. So I'm drinking a cup of coffee, so if I pause here and there, it's because I'm sipping off my coffee. So let's go back to our document. Okay, so Unity scenes. Let's just call it that. Unity scenes. Scene. We'll have an intro scene. And we're going to show game name, enemy point values, and play game option. Then the next thing we're going to have is we're going to have the actual game scene. And now this is what we're writing here is very, very basic. But the game is so simple. I mean, we don't really even need this. But it's good. It's a good habit to get into documenting this stuff. And later on, when we get into doing more scripting and maybe creating, different classes or different objects, we'll need to document some more technical things and how things interact, and or if we're working on a certain feature, we'll document that a feature could have its own design document or game document. So again, this is going to be just the whole thing is on one screen here. Okay, so I have the game scene. This is where player has fun. That's basically where it all happens. Now, I don't know if... Let's go back to this game real quick. I don't know. I mean, we could do whatever we want with ours, but I was trying to push up just to see if it allowed you to go up and down a little bit, but no. Try to get hit by a missile. I'm going to die 3 times and see if there's a... I want to see if there's a like a high scoreboard or something. That's something we could could always add, but that involves then now. Okay, so it just says game over and then resets back to what apparently is the intro screen, and it starts over. So it's in a loop. Intro screen, gameplay, back to intro screen, gameplay. So after the game over message is displayed, it automatically, it didn't even ask us to click anything. It was on a timer. It just looped back. So we'll keep ours simple too. Like I said, it's our first little game with Unity, so we'll keep it simple. Alright, so back to our, what we call our design document. Let's go ahead and save this. And we'll just save it to the desktop here. We'll call it Space Invaders Game Doc. And we could always have that to reference if we need to. So, alright, let's close that. We can close that. We can close that. And I'm just going to leave really the documentation open. Let's go ahead and launch Unity. Let's get in this bad boy and see what we can figure out. Or do I still have it open from before? I do, actually. Yeah, I left it open. I'm doing this stream, this second stream, in the same evening, so I pretty much just left everything open, went and ate like I said I was going to do, and came back to it. So here we are. Let's double click on our camera. Let's see where that is. There's our camera. And okay, so it was in a 2D mode, and we got a 3D camera, I guess. So if we right click, we can move the scene around a little bit. I think if we hold Control, or was it Alt? Yeah, I'm holding Alt, moving the mouse. It looks like it's zooming in and out. You can also do that with the scrolling wheel. Zoom in and out. Anyway, enough of that. So what I want to do this, I want a new project. We're going to start fresh. And the project name is going to be called of course, Space Invaders. Do I have a capital either or not? Yeah, I guess so. It didn't look like. And I guess we'll call this Project 1 Space Invaders. I'll just say 2D because although it's really not, we're going to choose the 3D environment. We could do a 2D version. That would make it really simple, actually. But I don't want to do it in that. Alright, so it should create our basic package here. It's loading Unity. It'll create our basic game package, starter files, all that, the assets, whatever it normally starts us with. It should be a blank project. I didn't pick anything to import with it. And we'll get a little bit of music going, but basically what I'm going to be doing, I may not be talking a whole lot. I'll just be more researching and looking stuff up and getting stuff going and first thing I'm going to do is drop like a plane. What's called there's a primitive shape called a plane, which is, it's sort of like having a terrain in a game, but it's the plane. It's a starting point or a platform that can be used for the foundation of everything that we're going to place in this game. And so I want that to be there to be a visible plane that's like the ground, for example, and we'll go from there. I'm going to use for the enemies, they're just going to be basic squares, cubes, three-dimensional cubes, and to represent each enemy. And there will be different, I think the color, we'll make the cubes a different color to represent the different enemies. And so, the top tier might be red, the next two would be blue, and the lower ones would be green, and they'll be worth different point values. And but we'll get them moving around and moving, the same movement like the enemies do in Space Invaders, and get the whole gameplay thing going. And get a little missile launching, which will essentially be another cube, or it could be a little ball. Maybe we'll use a sphere, primitive sphere, a small one, and that'll be like a ball, a cannonball. It launches, and when it hits the or makes contact with the three-dimensional cubes that are the enemies, they will be destroyed and removed from the scene, and that kind of thing. So I'm gonna be looking up some things and get stuff going. I'm not exactly sure why this is even looking the way it is with this grid sideways like that. Normally, when you have the... Okay, I know what it is. It's kind of odd. We're actually above. There's nothing there to show, but we're kind of looking like through the floor, and it just goes down. We could rotate that. Let's see, which is the rotate tool. Yeah, see, I'm rotating right now. You can see. Okay, so we got our camera, main camera, and then our directional, there's a light source, main camera, and so let's add let's start by adding, we call it plane. Okay, so there's our plane. Let's zoom in on that a little bit. And so there's no color to it. Let's hit play and see what we see. Is that even visible? It's not. It is not visible. So we're going to have to move our camera in such a way that we can see it. So we're going to click on our main camera. And we're going to need to rotate it. Hopefully I got this right. That's too high. Let's see. Let's click on the Y. Whoops. Like I said, I'm kind of learning. What I want to do is move this camera up. So what is this? Movement right here. Click on the Y. I'm going to move. Okay. Now I'm getting something in view. See, I thought we were like below, really right at ground level, what was considered the origin, and so everything, the way things render, sometimes they don't render on both sides, like front and back. And so in the case of a plane, only the top surface renders, but the camera was looking under it, so it looked like it wasn't even there, even though it was. So if I move that camera up just ever so slightly, you'll see it come into, yeah, so now it's in the scene. So now we can actually see. Let's see, this is the Z. What is this? Yeah, I probably don't need to move that. Okay, yeah, that's moving us further away. So that's our Z here. Let's get it lined up. Just want to be able to see the plane, really. That's what we're looking at. Just want to be able to see it. We don't really need to be actually that high. See, red is our X. Let's click on that. Okay, you want to rotate on the Y, which is the green. So hopefully I'm clicking the right one. Yeah, I'm trying to rotate. I guess about there. And I kind of want to move it in more, so the Z. Okay, blue. You gotta remember the colors. It's always the same. Green is always your Y-axis. Blue is your X, and the red is the Z. So if I don't know about that though. That looks like I'm moving. It's hard to tell. Anyway, let's leave it like that for now. Rotate on the Y right about there. I probably want to lower it. I mean, the position is just a little high. So on the Y, I want to bring the camera down just a wee bit. Not that much. So I'm zooming in just a bit there. All right. Anyway, so we've got a plane there. So now we want to add a initially I'm going to add in a static cube, but we're going to create this cube, which will be an enemy. We'll make it into a prefab, and then we can use that in a script to generate some random cubes. But let's just add one in right now. Game object. Well, before we go further with that, let's see if we can just add on the plane. Can we add some kind of material instead of just having white? So I don't know if that's here. Default material. Okay, so this is where I need to look something up. So I'm going to my best friend, Google. Well, actually, yeah, Google's on the other side. I'm going to go to here. I'll just type in. Although I probably go to YouTube and. Jeez, I can't even spell. there's somebody that probably has a video on how to do what I'm about. What I want to do is how to apply a texture to a plane game object in Unity. And here's the answer. It's actually in Unity. So unity.com forum. Okay, so someone asked that, and you got 2 replies here. Hi, in the editor mode, it's very easy. You only need to create the plane and put the texture on it with drag and drop from the project folder onto the scene view plane. Unity will automatically create a material folder for you with the material on the object. The other way is to create the material by yourselves, ask for material, and put the texture on it in the inspector. Drag and drop the material in the scene view like before, assign it in the hierarchy to the plane. And advice, don't work with Photoshop files. They are very large. Convert the PSD files to another format like PNG before input. So and he gave an example how to change the texture at runtime. All right, so let's see. Let's go to pictures, and probably want to make a folder for Unity projects. And I got a bunch of miscellaneous junk here. I'm going to clean that up too. I'm going to make another folder called I guess lost or junk or unorganized. What I want to do is just move all this stuff. I guess right up to right there. I'm gonna, because when we start creating images, I want to be able to get to them quickly and not have to rifle through all this stuff here. Okay. And so our Unity artwork will be, whoops. This Unity stuff here. Oh, okay. I guess I had some stuff I was downloading before. Anyways, we're going to put our stuff for the Unity projects in here. And so what I want to do is go to here I am searching for stuff. I was going to search for, let me open GIMP. We're going to create a, instead you can use JPEG or PNG files, create a PNG. We'll probably do like a, maybe a, I don't know, a 128 by 128 texture. Or maybe 256. I'm not sure if there's a certain, if it needs to be a certain size. All right, so let me slide GIMP over. There's GIMP. New image size. Let's do 512 by 512. Pixels wide. Advanced options. Background color. I want it to be transparent for the background, so if we don't put anything in any pixels, they'll be transparent and see through. It'll work. But we're going to just take the paintbrush tool and we'll pick a color. Let's see. Right now it's black, but we'll choose one of the basic colors here. We'll just choose red. Again, we're just, okay. Brush size, we'll bump that up just so we get a bigger. So we're going to just spray paint this sort of. So it'll be red. I still have a red texture here. And, okay, now let's choose black and reduce that back down to, I guess it was 20 to begin with. I'm just going to put a few spots on here. Again, we're just making some rudimentary texture. It's just to have some kind of pattern on there. Alright, so we'll go File, Save As, we'll go to our pictures and our Unity projects. We're going to call this red 512 by 512. Just so we can track the size just by looking at the file name. That creates as in GIMP, its default file format is an XCF file. It's kind of like has the same features like a Photoshop file where it can do layers and things like that. But anyways, we got to do the export as to get it as a JPEG. So by default, they remember the last file format I've used, which is PNG. So we're going to just export it. It's going to Unity projects. Boom. Save background, export. I leave all the defaults more or less. All right, so we're going to minimize that because we might come back to it. No thanks. And so now we have this red texture. Now it says we should be able to create an asset here by adding a texture. So let's go to Assets, Create. Create a material. Let's see. We're going to call this material red with black dots. All right, and let's go back to that article. Okay, so the other way is to create the material by yourself. Go to Assets, Create Material. That's what I did. And put the texture on it in the inspector. Drag and drop the material. Put the texture on it. So does that mean from here let's shrink down the window here so we get them side by side. Does that mean I can do this? Whoops, I seen something that looked like we could do something. Well, let me add it in. Grabbed it and pulled it in as an asset. But, okay, how do I... Asset bundle. Done. Okay. Done. That's all that. Oh, you can change type of red with black dots. Okay, now how do we drag that texture in there? I don't see anything that looks like. Saying you're supposed to be able to grab this. Wait a minute. What did that do? Oh, cool. Okay, so I was able to do that, but why was I not able to create a material with that? That's what I want to know. Yeah. Anyway, so let's expand that. Let's do that over here. And I'm going to take a short break here for just a second. All right, so I'm back. It's moving along slowly, isn't it? This, so training. Anyway, so we got some kind of image we threw onto this plane. But I didn't expect it to, there's a physics material, okay. Didn't expect it to scale it across the entire thing like it did, but anyway, let's not worry about it. For now, we've got some color other than white. Okay, so we want to bring a cube in. We'll do another game component. Let's do this. 3D object. Cube. So I want to move that cube up a little bit though. And let's see. Slide it over here. Kind of want to move that camera. So it's really looking, I don't like the way it's looking in that right now. Let's see, it's the blue. What was that again? It's the Z. Let's move that there a little bit. think I need to rotate. That's what I want to do. I want to rotate that camera to on the Y, which the Y is going to be the green. So let's see if I got that right. Okay. So we want to rotate like that, and then we want to move it the X, which is the red, I guess. So if they're doing that right. Yeah, so that's about centered, more or less. So the idea is I want to take this one cube and try to clone it left to right, up and down, and see if we can clone it 4 times. Well, actually, this cube here is going to be renamed to, this will be like the shield, let's say. We might not do 4 shields. We might just get a couple of shields here. I kind of want to scale it down a little bit. It seems it's a little bit big for that. So let's see if we can scale it. All right, so okay, that's a little bit better there for that. So let's see if we can get a texture for that. We should be able to just drag it right onto it. Again, we'll make one. We got GIMP. Did we leave it open? Yeah. We'll take the same one and I'm just going to make it a solid color. I mean, we're, I guess our shields can be blue. Select all. They weren't exactly getting the blue that I was looking for because we had the red on there. So, anyways, we're just going to color that in. Good deal. File, save as. It's going to be blue. File, export as. All right. So again, we should be able to first of all drag it in as a asset, and then can we drag it in the shield? Yep. And so it looks like it textured it out. It's just scaled up here, but we're going to leave it at the actual scale size. Okay, so that's that. Okay, so if we take the shield, we drag it to our asset folder, what happens? Boom. See that special blue little cube? That means it's a prefab now. So what that means is we can delete that shield out of here. And so we want to add a script now that can take that prefab shield and just throw it up there in the scene. So how do we do that? I forgot. We're just going to close up some of this mesh collider. We don't need to see all this plain mesh filter. Anyway, so we're going to add a component. Let's do this. Yeah, run it. Well, let's do this. We're going to, under assets, create C# script. And we're going to call it spawn. Spawn what? That's really just spawning a cube. We could make this generic enough that we could reuse it for not only our defense blocks that are going to be up there, but the enemies, and because they're going to be cubes as well. Just say spawn cube. We're just playing around right now. We're probably gonna have to scratch all this and start over, but I'm just trying to refamiliarize myself with some of this stuff and how it worked. All right, so we'll let that sit there a minute. Let's see. Okay, the first thing I need to find out is how do I take that prefab shield and using spawn cube script, how to spawn that into this 3D scene. Power my texture, render.material. All right, so that answered that. But let's how to spawn a prefab from a C script in Unity. Okay, instantiating prefabs at runtime. That's basically what we want. Okay, this is building a wall. This explanation will illustrate the advantages of using prefab versus creating objects from code. First, let's build the brick wall from code. So it's using a simple thing, game object cube, use game object that create primitive, primitive.type.cube, cube.add component, rigid body, cube to transform to position equals new vector 3, x, y. All right, so looks like all right, so I think yeah, this is kind of what we want, this kind of thing right here. Let's go back to Unity. Actually, I have 2017 on here. I haven't associated it with Unity yet. It might be quicker for me to just use the built-in editor for Unity. All right, so what I'm going to do is write down. I'm looking at the shield here, which is basically essentially a cube, but I'm going to create 4 of these across there. But I'm looking at the shield and the starting X, Y, and Z. So looks like X is at 0. And so if we change the X value to 1, let's see where it goes. I guess it doesn't matter. Just write down what the current values are before they get modified, just in case I screw this up. So X equals 0, Y is 1.26, Z is 2.47. Okay. What happened if that was 0? 1.26. Okay, that goes through there. So we could actually do 1, or we can do, if we did 2 of that. 1 puts it there. 0. 2.47. I mean, it really don't matter on that, to be honest with you. 4. 5 puts it way out there. Alright, so we're moving. We've got our view kind of wrong. We're going to need to move the camera. I want the camera facing where when you're moving on the X back and forth, you know, you can see I'm at X negative 3. When I do X3, the cube moves forward, you know, because, and it's about the same distance from that. So I'm actually looking, set that at 0. We need to be looking at where I'm pointing right now, this front face. We need the camera here, looking this way. So, let's see where our main camera is right now. So we're going to move it on the X, which is red. I think we determined red was X. No, see, it's not moving the camera right, though. That's just kind of odd. Let's do rotate on the X-axis, which is red. let's just rotate that whole scene. Let's pull that over. Pull that over. Okay, so that's the direction we want to be looking. Get our scene looking right. So if we let's go to the shield. So if we set that to 3, where does it go? Yep. We go to -3. It's over there. 2, 1, 0. And we go to 3. Anyways, the main thing I was trying to play around with was get the script set up where we could spawn this automatically without actually dragging it into the scene. So it looks like the only value we need to change not really going to mess with that, but Y we can go to -1 gets it out of there. So alright, I'm back. Heard some cats screaming out. I guess it was outside. I thought it was my cats on the inside. Alright, so let's get the music playing. Okay, so we updated to those values. And the spawn too, but I want to do is specify a X, Y, and Z. was automatically updated from things I made in Visual Studio, updated it. This is like a preview of the file. Okay, so what I want to do is drop the script under the plane. See, when I did that, you see it's added to the plane. Transform, now we're going to have to drop our prefab there, so shield transform object. X and Y, and now it allows us to set values. So leave an X at 0 and Y, we're going to have it. Let's just run that, but that should do a spawn just one view. Now we want to spawn multiple. So normally you would probably you do a loop ahead and four of them. I think we'll do that. I'm gonna modify this. Add another parameter here, which is the number of shields that need to spawn, and the X and Y will represent the starting position of the first one. And it'll spawn 3 additional by side to it. Go back to our code. Add another public. Called count. Really only the Y is really not going to change. Setting the Y one time. Really the X is only going to be modified in order to instantiate multiple shield cubes and all that. Side by side, change the X value. The Y is going to be the same height and the same depth. And I'm not sure how far over. I think we did the cube. Let's try 3 and see what happens. Alright, so let's go back to our plane. Count. I'm gonna want 4. Let's do -3 as the starting point. Going back to Visual Studio, that might be too much. Let's just add 2 to X. Alright, we'll save that. Go back to Unity, hit play. Let's see what it does. Alright, so we got 4. They look kind of small. I don't know if we're pushed away too far or what. We might need to move them closer to us. It's really going to be the Z. Let's go back to Visual Studio. Set the Z to 0. Let's see what happens. I don't know if they move closer or not. It looks like they moved a little closer. I'm not sure how far the camera was from them. So we probably need to move the camera up. Let's click on our main camera. What's that negative? Let's do -8. Let's see what happens. It definitely brought us closer, but I don't like being where we can see the edge. Like we're like looking over the plane. Let's put it back to -11. Or we'll just do 10. Make that an even 2. That X1. See what that view looks like. Alright. Let's go back to our shield. Let's put the scale back to what it was. That's a little better. That was too hard to see. And I do want to move it closer. Might have to do like a negative value for the Z maybe. thinking we're trying to get a 3D look to get the perspective we needed to look on it. We might have to have the camera almost at the floor, looking upward, because we're gonna have our 4 defenses there. We'll have our player controller down underneath those, and the enemies above that moving back and forth. So yeah, we probably need to keep moving them closer. Let's lower the camera down though again. Let's take a look at the camera. And its position. Let's go Y1. See what that does. 2. 1.5. What is that? Was that better? Okay, 1.25 is pretty darn close. That actually, we might have to go 2.5 like that. Let's do that. So it puts the camera a little bit lower. That's what I wanted. Might need to zoom in and then look up. So let's move in closer. That's actually pretty good, but I want to go ahead and get the camera looking up. Let's see. This could be a rotation. So we're going to rotate on, in order to swivel the camera up and down, we're really rotating on the x-axis, which is the red. And that'll be getting it looking upward. Let's see how that looks. So we can move the Y down now that we got it looking upward. Yeah, we could almost go to 1. Yeah. Yeah, I still want to move in closer in on it and look upward more. So, let's see. This would be -5 maybe. Rotation on X. 25. Guess you need to go ahead and build out the whole scene. Get the enemies above this and see what we've got. Oh, it's going to be a tough angle there. We may need to just back it up like we had it before. Let's go -20 with a position, Y position of 1.25. See it -10. Let's leave it at that for now. All right, so let's build an enemy prefab. Let's add a ready object, sphere, not a sphere, a quad, I guess. Cube. I want these a little bit smaller then. So make them about that size. Make the enemies green. So let's go. Do our GIMP. That to a green. so we now have a name. What's the Y on the shield? Let's see. Oh, that was going to be different. Crap. Let's see, what I'm trying to do is, well, I don't really know what's the best thing to do. I mean, I want to try to get it where it doesn't have all these funky numbers on it. Normalize it, sort of. That's what's also a file of that. have it the same target distance and shit, you know, it doesn't matter. Shield that. But the enemy, I think, is going to be sized smaller. Just like we did the spawn too, something similar to the spawn. What I'm gonna do is just copy this code. It's pretty much just part right here. Copy and paste. This will be a little bit different. We're going to have multiple rows. We're going to have 5 rows actually of enemies. And we'll probably have, I'm not sure how many we're going to go across. Change this up a little bit too. So the count, rows and columns. So we kind of know how many rows and columns of enemies we're going to have instead of a while loop. This would be whoops. For int R, it's going to stand for the rows. R is less than rows R plus plus. We're gonna have a nested for loop. Do the rows and columns like a grid. C equals 0. Well, C is less than columns. C plus. All right, so we're going across the columns. Let's say this is row 0. So we're gonna have to adjust some of this. X is going to equal to X plus, and we got to use an offset. So we're doing multiple. Plus C times 1, for example. Y is going to be Y plus R times 1. Z will stay the same. I don't know why my home key's not working. Oh, let's see what that does. Let's go back to that. Okay, so on the plane, we had a script spawn cube. So we want to add spawn enemy. For the transform, it's going to be our enemy. Okay, so our enemy's dropping in there. Our X value is going to start I'm not really sure yet. We're going to have to play around with some numbers here. -5. The Y is going to be higher at 3, let's say. Okay, number of rows. You're going to have 5 columns. We're going to have, let's say, 8. So about 40 enemies. Let's see what happens there. May get something unexpected. Well, we got something close to what I was looking for. And they're about, I guess they're about where I want them. Maybe spread them out a little bit. Let's do that. Let's spread them out a little bit more. And so where we make that change, all that's happening in the script. So let's go back to Visual Studio. And the X we just multiply by 1. Let's try 1.1. Let's see what that does. Same with the Y, 1.1. Save. Go back there. Play. See what happens. We had some errors there on the bottom. It's saying we had errors. Do vector 3. Let's see what we're doing. Maybe it has to be whole numbers. Let's see. It's acting like a float though. It was showing float, like, which could have a decimal point for precision. All compilers have to be fixed before you get enter play mode. No shit. Okay. And down at the bottom says assets/spawn enemy.cs error. The best overload method match for Unity Vector 3 has some invalid arguments. Okay. So what are we missing here in this vector? Let's make these floats. That may be the issue here. The fact that alright, so let's look up some crap on Unity now. Transforms. Let's see. Vector 3. This is. All right. So what else is wrong? Could have invalid arguments. Oh. Let's just do this. Float. New x. X2, comma, y2, comma, z2, f. Actually, that's supposed to be commas. Crap. Actually, I don't need a z there. Just. Oh, righty. What are you missing a cast? Explicit conversion exists. Double to float. Oh. Cannot implicitly convert type double to float. Line 22. Let's see. So we're getting closer. Set a rebuild and get a new line number. Try to break it down by the line. Okay. 23, comma 23 error. Connect with the convert type double to float. What is considered the double? I guess we're gonna have to cast it specifically. See if that works. Whoops. Pain in the ass. So I think it spread them out a little bit more, as you can see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We probably go 10. It might be better. That would make it look. That's originally what I was going to do. I just didn't know how far over it would be. Let's go to there. And so, actually, it's in Unity. This is the beauty of it. Once you write that script, see, I don't really need to go in the script. I can go right here to the spawn enemy script where I had set columns. Set that to 10 instead. That's going to do 10 columns. So reach over, cover it. Yeah, that's what I wanted for it to cover that. Need to move them up a little higher. They're too close to the shields. Let's see where that starts. That's better. But we can even go a little higher. Go 5. No, don't do that. Yeah, so that's high enough. What I want to do is move the shields up a little higher too, the defense shields, and then make room for the player underneath. So let's move the shields up a little bit. Right now they're at YF2. Let's see if we move them up to a 3. How that would look. Yeah, so they're a little bit higher up. All right, so let's add, okay, now we need to add another .3D object, cube. So what I want to do is, this will be the player, the controllable player object, so game object. So I think the height's going to be half. Everything else will stay the same. Let's raise that position. Oops, that was rotation. I don't need to rotate it any bit. Skip position Y. Might not be exactly where we need it, but let's see. Yeah, it's definitely not where we need it. Okay, that little triangular looking spot is just indicating where it'll shoot its bullets from. Right out the middle there. Just trying to keep it simple. It is getting late. It's 11 o'clock. All right, let me just get this lined up where it's underneath the shields. That's kind of where I want to get it. And tomorrow we'll work on navigation. We need to put up some walls to the left and right of the enemies. So when they hit the wall, they'll change direction and move down a little bit. So we'll work on that tomorrow, as well as player control and get where we can actually start firing. I guess we need to work on player control and being able to fire a little sphere, which would be like a bullet, and get that rolling. So let me just work on this, getting this positioned, and we'll see how it looks. Let's see. Actually, I don't want to go full screen on that, so let's turn off that maximize on play. What I want to be able to do is be able to play with some numbers here on this player so I can get it right. Okay, so that's where he's showing up. He needs to be lower, number one. This is on the player. Okay, and then his Z needs to go to, let's see, maybe -4. No. 0. 0 might be the ticket there. I don't know. Maybe that's it. Let's see. So a quarter and 2. It didn't save that. It doesn't save it when you're in there, but alright, so let's do that. Let's see if I can rotate that. Oh wow. So those things are like way out of the view. That's what the issue is. Yeah, they're not even like near this plane. That's what the issue is. Okay, so that's actually fine. We need to move the other things in. So let's see. Player. And he's about where I want it. So let's move the others in. Player. Let's see. Let's make sure. Position. Scale. Position. Y. Quarter and a 2. Okay. rename that spawn cube. Rename that if we can. And that won't let us. Alright, so the X and Y, it's the Z. That's the issue. It's like it's too far back, so let's do this. Closer. Alright, cubes look closer. Let's see if we can. Yeah, actually, it's in line there. Those things, for some reason, went the wrong way on the enemies. So let's go back over here. Alright, so I think I have those lined up as well. Yeah, if we look, everything looks like it's in the right. It's right above that line, sort of like all in line. So the reason I want to have it all lined up is because when you shoot, you're going to be shooting straight up. And I want to make sure these blocks, these enemies are going to be moving in the same plane, the same, I guess you'd call it the Y plane. Okay, so let's move our camera. So let's get us a view that looks semi-decent. Might have to view it from that way. I don't know. Yeah, so that's not going to work for the camera view. So we need to back the camera off a little bit. Let's see. Let's try that. Alright, so that's kind of a, I guess that was kind of the view I'm looking for, something where you see it three-dimensionally like that. And so create some walls that'll show up on the left and right edge and let them things walk and bounce and move down. That'd be pretty cool. I might need to spread out the, possibly the shields, but oh well, that's a good start. We pretty much got the visual side of it done, with the exception of the bullet, or our missile, and the enemy's missiles, but can work on some more scripting tomorrow. I'm going to call it for tonight. It's getting late. Appreciate y'all sticking around and watching. Post any comments on the video after it posts. It should give it a few minutes to process through YouTube. And post any questions or comments on the videos. I'll try to check those before I stream. Before I start the next stream, I'll look at any comments and have some answers ready for y'all. Anyway, y'all have a good night. It's late. It's 11:14 p.m. Central Time here. I will see you next time tomorrow. I'm going to pick this up. It's going to be a daily effort until this is done. Good night.